Before we begin, you should all know that I have decided to go back using the original text-to-speech program that I used for Maya's voice. This was because of a combination of audience feedback and also the frequent unavailability of 15.ai's services.
Read the disclaimer. Doofus. And please contact us through this email address with questions or fan art. Thank you for your support.
Something that I find genuinely quite odd about this channel is that I have only reviewed one helicopter transformer over the series' run, which is insane when you consider that there are a lot of them, and a lot of them are really good, like Generation Select's Rotorstorm and the figure that it was repainted from, Siege Spinister. However, this is another opportunity where I can cover something a bit older, in the period between Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. Salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27, and let us commence our analysis of Transformers Hunt for the Decepticons Tomahawk. This attack helicopter mode is flat out badass, and it's not often that I think so highly of realistic militaristic alternate modes, mostly because, well, I find a lot of real-world military vehicles yawn-inducing. No disrespect to any modern military vehicles, because they are cool in design, but they aren't cool in color, and in fact, just discussing how bland and colorless they are kinda puts me to sleep. Oh right, I have an episode to record. And the reason I think I enjoy these colors so much is because I actually have a bit of nostalgia for them. Because this plastic is really similar to the plastic that made up my first movie toy, Revenge of the Fallen Breakaway. Having said that, Tomahawk both looks, and most likely is, more dangerous than Breakaway. The wings alone sport a ridiculous amount of firepower, with a machine gun, 2 missiles, and a missile launcher on each. And then we have some kind of turret mounted underneath the cockpit. And surprise, surprise, both launchers are spring-loaded.
Headshot.
But if that alone wasn't enough to make you run away screaming, then I think it's about time I get you all acquainted with the 3mm clip system. Wait, I've heard of headcanons, but this is ridiculous. The 3mm clip system was an inter-toy line gimmick that was created in the period between Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon for Transformers figures. Essentially, certain figures would come with weapons that could be clipped onto various spots on a figure. These accessories most commonly came with Human Alliance Basic class figures. So you could have hours of fun swapping around the weapons and giving people missile launchers or, in Dragstrip's case, a pair of swords. If you have a figure from the Hunt for the Decepticons line, the Reveal the Shield line, the Dark of the Moon line, or Generations 2010/2011, odds are they have 3mm clips on them at some point. Or if you're Prime War Breakdown, you have a singular 3mm weapon clip. And in some cases, you could actually clip 3mm clip compatible weapons onto other weapons with 3mm clips, such as Tomahawk, whose missile can actually support 3mm clips. He also has 3mm clips on the ends of his wings at the Gatling guns, and on the rear tail of the helicopter mode, and also on the feet, though I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that until we get to robot mode. And like I said, the anti-choking safety measures on the missiles allow you to go ham with the 3mm clip weapons, so you can add a bunch of them before praying for the man who's fallen into the river in Lego City, because there's a 90% chance that Tomahawk's definition of saving someone is blowing them clean out of the river. all the while some blonde douchey internet influencer tries to capture this on video for views. Hey! Now, in terms of problems with this vehicle mode, the only one that I can think of that's really just a nitpick is the fact that, well, the rotor doesn't spin a whole lot. Like I said, this is merely a nitpick, but it doesn't have an alibi to not freely rotate. It's not Armada Cyclonus, it doesn't have any excuse. I guess if you also really wanted something to complain about, it does have a lot of kibble underneath, but it's not that bad. These negatives are certainly outweighed by the positives, like the detail, the retractable landing gear, and the molded cockpit. I think what I like most about Tomahawk's helicopter mode is that it's not a real-world licensed vehicle. Not trying to crap on real-world licensed alternate modes. How's it going, Studio Series? You're incredibly valid. But with an alternate mode like this that's not based on any one particular real-world vehicle, I feel like it can be a lot less cynical when approaching it. Like, oh hey, this wasn't a cash grab. It was just something that the designers made that was cool and that they liked making. Like, especially when compared to something like Studio Series VW Bumblebee. It feels way less corporate and therefore far less cynical. But much like Studio Series Bumblebee, he might actually feel a bit small for a deluxe to some. To demonstrate, here he is next to last week's review, Kingdom Cyclonus, Commander Class Skylynx for some reason, a rather intimidating beast of the sky, Universe Rat-Bat, the last movie-related figure I took a look at on this channel, Studio Series Blitzwing, and as routine as clockwork by this point, a standard Qtama, a standard can of sparkling water, and Broadside. So yeah, Tomahawk's helicopter mode? Absolute smash. He manages to avoid a lot of my cynicism towards early movie toys via his whole not being a licensed vehicle mode, and a great reminder that the Autobots really need more air support. Like, who is there besides this guy? Springer? Jetfire? Highbrow? Brainstorm? I mean, that's just a list of prominent G1 characters, but you see my point. There needs to be more. Especially aerial support characters like Tomahawk. And to demonstrate why, I'm gonna transform him. Okay, I gotta tell you, I find Tomahawk's robot mode kind of adorable. I think it's mostly down to a combination of the big aviator goggles, and the fact that he seems to be sporting a friendly smile. And it also kind of looks like he's wearing some kind of sports helmet. But yeah, I know that this figure isn't perfect. It's got some pretty disproportionate limbs, its chest is really wide, and the helicopter blades are a bit weird. Like, you're supposed to leave them flopping down off the back, but I prefer to use the shoulder pads to support them. Because if you don't... In other news, this robot mode looks very contradictory to the vehicle mode. By which I mean that in vehicle mode, it was sort of all military might, guns, muscles, biceps, explosions. While the robot mode just looks like a rookie who's barely flown any missions. And also might be a bit too eager to fly his helicopter mode into dangerous situations. I mean, just slap an earpiece and a pair of red headphones onto him and you can basically call him Charles Calvin.
Hey, can someone please get Tomahawk in here? I think we're gonna start shooting his scenes soon.
Leave it to me, Bite.
Oh, thanks, Maya. Great.
I've got the perfect plan.
What can I get to rhyme with Big Chungus?
This is the greatest
Son
plan.
of
Okay, Tomahawk, we're ready for pickup.
Alright, here I come. Da, 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 da.
And now I would like to, if I may, draw your attention to the weapons. First up, all of the munitions from vehicle mode are mounted on his shoulder pads. Which honestly feels like a weird place to put them. Mostly because I suspect that the recoil would probably tear both the shoulder pads and the launchers off. Then we have his forearm, which has this weird scissor blade mounted to it. And you can clamp the scissor blades down into an arrowhead for some reason. which you are then supposed to unfold for some unfathomable reason. Clearly, this feature was just like turret modes from Beast Wars 2nd/Neo, where it was just something that they could add, so they did. But that begs the question, why can both arms do it? Are both of them suddenly spears of some kind? Because frankly, the design still hasn't sold me on the idea of forearms turning into swords. Or maybe since they're mounted on top of the palms, they're fingers? Wait, why does something about that concept for an attack sound so familiar? Yeah, that's probably it. Maybe it also serves the purpose of allowing Tomahawk to T-pose to assert dominance. Nah, that's impossible. T-posing wasn't in vogue at that point in time. In other news, the 3mm clips on the feet have opened up, so you can literally give him mistletoe. Please laugh at that joke.
Tomahawk's robot mode has a ball-jointed head, shoulders are on a butterfly joint, and a ball joint. Bicep rotates, elbows bend, thighs rotate, knees bend, and toes and heels bend.
So overall, Tomahawk's articulation is solid. Not top of the line or anything, but it's pretty good. Also, am I the only one noticing that this figure is weirdly familiar? Helicopter cockpit chest, light-piped goggles, and a pair of missile launchers. Huh. I wonder what other Autobots fit that description. He is very similar to rotorstorm! I literally have no idea how much of this was intentional, but it feels like there are too many design parallels for it not to be intentional on some level. Perhaps in an alternate universe, we got lucky, and this got repainted by BotCon or the Collectors Club into Rotorstorm. Or maybe you got even luckier, and this was a Generations Rotorstorm. Heck, I'd even go one step further and suggest that maybe there's an alternate universe where we got an entire BotCon box set themed around G1.5/Euro G1. But in this universe, unfortunately, we only got this version, plus a version that they released in Japan as Vortex, a BotCon version that was released as Spinister, and also a version that was released in GDO as Springer. Of course, this figure might have come out before IDW popularized the character again, so for all I know, that's the reason why they never released it as Rotorstorm. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have them as two separate characters, and Lord knows the Autobots could always use more aerial support, but at this point it's like, why would we even bother making them two separate characters if they're going to be so similar in design? And again, I need to be clear that this is all speculation on my part, but it would be cool if we did get a Rotorstorm version of this mold. And before anyone recommends repainting G1 Rotorstorm into Tomahawk, that's a good idea on paper, but the G1 toy of Rotorstorm kinda sucks. Besides, ever since the death of BotCon and the Collectors Club, Hasbro has been against pulling any molds at pre-Combiner Wars out of mothballs. Having said that, I'd genuinely like to see a new incarnation of the character at some point. Maybe a new Studio Series toy for the character? Heck, I wouldn't actually be that opposed to seeing Studio Series remake some of these toy-exclusive characters in the lineup. It'd certainly be interesting and also bulk up the line a bit and make sure that it would last longer. But with Hasbro's money grubbing, such might remain but a fantasy. But hey, they did do Studio Series Thundercracker, which wasn't in the movie, so maybe they'll do one for Tomahawk or Dead End at some point. Unfulfilled dreams aside, let's do some size comparisons before we wrap up this episode. Here's Tomahawk next to Kingdom Cyclonus, Earthrise Skylynx, Universe Ratbat, Studio Series Blitzwing, a standard Q-Tama, a standard can of sparkling water, and Frothside.
So, would I recommend tracking down Hunt for the Decepticons Tomahawk? Yes, absolutely. It is a great figure, and it has aged magnificently, especially when compared to other figures of the Revenge of the Fallen line and other movie-aligned toy lines. Not to mention, there are some options out there in case you don't really like this version, like the Spinister repaint from the Collectors Club, and GDO Springer, never mind. Point is, this figure is excellent, and I am confident in awarding it a 9 out of 10. And yeah, just goes to prove how creative and good the figures from 2009-ish, 10-ish were. And well, with that being said, this is FireRite27 over and out.